Two sheriff's deputies walk up behind me and handcuff me. They sit me down. They say, we're waiting for a detective to show up. Listen, by this point, there's been 30 articles. Secret Service is after me. I end up waiting there and the detective walks in. Hey, Mr. Sullivan, here's what's going on. Wachovia Bank says that you're doing something called a shotgunning scam and that you borrowed the money so fast that they couldn't catch it. And now you're removing the money in cash. Why are you removing the money in cash? And I was like, I explained to him about I cash checks for these guys that work at the company I work for. I pull out my business card. And he says, okay. I said, I cash a lot of these guys' checks. So I said, also a lot of these guys, I'm flipping houses. I buy houses and fix them up. He goes, oh yeah, that's right. You own another house on Shady Lane or whatever. I'm like, oh shit. And he's like, yeah. I said, you're right. So we just had a new roof put on and, the Mexican guys, like they want to be paid in cash. I said, you know how it is. He's like, right. So he gets head of Wachovia's fraud department. And he said, well, why do you have 3 mortgages? Even though this guy is saying they're all first mortgages. And I go, they're not first mortgages, bro. I said, I came to Wachovia. I asked for a first mortgage. The loan officer got me a first mortgage. I told her that I really needed to get $300,000-$400,000 because I'm flipping a bunch of property. He goes, okay. I said, and she said, I've got a friend that can get you a second mortgage. So she sent me over to SunTrust Bank. Guy from Wachovia screaming, that's not true. They're all first mortgages. You can't show me one mortgage that says it's a first mortgage. What makes more sense? A guy who works for a labor company figured out how to defraud 3 major banks out of $500,000, or a bunch of loan officers figured out how to get me $500,000 so they could make a broker fee. Yeah, I think you guys have a problem at the bank. And they, oh my God, he's screaming, hollering. He said, I think, I'm going to bring him downtown, have him sign some paperwork. He goes, wait a minute, look at his ID. It's a fake ID. I had the ID issued from the DMV in South Carolina. He goes, look at the ID. It starts with 000. He's from California. So this guy says, listen, this is a real South Carolina ID. I've already run it and I've run him through NCIC. This is Gary Sullivan. Bro, what? Now I'm not Gary Sullivan? I go, what the f are we doing here? And he goes, I know, Gary, I know. This guy's losing it. He tells him, I'm going to bring him downtown. I'm going to talk to the district attorney, see if he's even broken a law. I follow them downtown. I go in the police station. I fill out a police report. I'm standing in the hallway and my Secret Service's Most Wanted poster was in the hallway. And mine was the only one that was in color, which is the only reason it even stood out. The cop walks me out of the police station. I get in my car. Listen, we do have some questions. Don't leave the area. I said, where am I going to go? I'm not going. I haven't done anything wrong. I go straight to 2 more banks, pull out some money, jump on the interstate, and immediately go back to Charlotte.
My girl at the time, I called her, bro. You know what I'm saying? She was doing something and she was doing it so smooth. It was confusing me for a long time. And I caught her by default. I caught her by default because I told this dude that used to stay in this house. He used to stay next to the house where she used to hang out at with her friend. So I was like, hey, bro, if you see man, hit me up. Let me know. So he called me. I'm in the barbershop cutting hair. You know what I'm saying? I'm cutting hair for her. Buy her shoes and stuff and keep her looking a certain type of way, and you out here playing. Anyway, I'm in the shop. I'm cutting hair on Jesus Benoit Christ. Cutting hair. Boom. He called. Hey, bro, I just seen. I take off. It's like 3 blocks. I'm running. You know what I'm saying? Trying to catch something. The dude who I thought she was with, who I thought she was cheating on me with, it wasn't him. It was his brother. So soon as I hit the street, I see her jump out of his truck. You feel what I'm saying? Soon as I hit the street, and I'm like, oh, this was, you feel what I'm saying? And he was way older than me too. He was way older than me. I couldn't do nothing with him. He had like an Avalanche, a black Avalanche. I ain't gonna get in all that because people might know, but like, man, the Avalanche was clean. I even liked it, so I know she liked it. It was pressure. I swear to God, on Jesus Dwayne Christ, the Avalanche was pressure. I seen her hop out of it, and that's what kind of hurt me because I knew I lost. Like, man, I can't do nothing with that Avalanche. What I'm gonna do, bro? I ran over here. You know what I'm saying? I know she want to be in that Avalanche, bro. You feel me?
It's not how low you can get the price. That's not the game for an auction. It's not how cheap something is. They have a list price, and I knew the list price for the Elvis jet was about $300,000 is what they were going to try to get for it. So I knew.
You just said they tried to auction it before. Nobody even bid.
But I knew from my research that even the other auctions, they didn't get an opening bid, but it didn't mean they don't have a reserve on it. So they still need to try to get enough money so they can cover their costs and things like that. So the trick with auctions is, for me, it's not about where the bidding starts. It's about what they actually have to get out of this thing.
Okay.
And I knew that they'd be somewhere around 300,000. I also know that one of the tactics with auctions is they use the buyer premium and the seller's premium as a way to make the sale. So an auction will charge, call it 10% on both sides. So 300,000, they'll charge 30,000 to the buyer, 30,000 to the seller. They're going to make 60 grand on that thing. Well, they also use it if a bidder only gets up to 270,000, they'll say, hey, we'll waive your buyer's or your seller's fee, so you'll still net the same if we can make this deal. And now the seller still nets the same at 270 as they would if it went to 300. So I also knew that I was playing, and the auction houses, they just want the close. They want the sell. So they'd rather take 30 than nothing.
Right.
So I also knew that anything over like 250 is really dangerous because I could get stuck with it at that point. But I knew I needed to be the second bidder, the second highest, because I knew that phone call would come afterwards.
Okay.
So that's just the way the game is played.
That's so horrible.
It's a freaking terrible, it's not honest in the, pureness sense of it, but that's the game that's played. So I register, I go to the auction. We were there, all the hype and everything like that. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to start the bidding at 50 grand. Well, that bidding opened up at 150 grand. I was like, man, that happened fast.
Right.
So then, I'm sitting there. I was like, okay, is there actually anybody else bidding on this, or is it a phone bidder or phantom bidder? Oh, here's a fun nugget. At auctions, if you have an open hand, if the people out in the crowd are going 50 over here, 50 over here, 50 over here, that means they don't have real money.
Right.
A closed hand means they have a real bidder. So they have money in hand.
Okay.
So that's a little cheat code. If you're in an auction, you can say, I got 50 over here, 50 over here. They don't really have the money, but if we got a 50,000, that means they actually have a bidder. Anyways, so the bidding goes and goes and goes, and then it stalls out, I want to say at 200 or maybe just below that. And they still haven't lifted the reserve yet. So I'm like, all right, let's start having some fun. So I'm like 200, and my budget on this thing was 100 grand.
Right.
So I was way outside of what my budget was, but I knew I needed to be the second bidder, and they hadn't lifted the reserve yet. And I knew I did not want to be the high bidder when they lifted the reserve, because now you're hooked. So then the bidding, I bid 200, I think. And then there's a guy on the phone that bids 220. And then I'm like, man, this is such a bad idea, but let's just see where this goes, 230. And then that was definitely my highest point at that point. And so then the phone bids at 240. And I'm like, man, who the heck? And they haven't lifted the reserve yet. So I'm like, okay, this is part of that game where you got to be on your toes. And I was done. So I'm sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, because then the auctioneer will kind of drag it out for a little bit, and he'll try to, hook it for then, instead of $10,000 increments, go to 5,000 and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden they yell 260 from behind me. And then I was like, what happened? And I think the guy on the phone, it was the same bidder. I don't know if there was a miscommunication or something, but it went from 240 to 260, and nobody else had bid at all. I think he bid twice on that. Well, anyway, they lifted the reserve right at 260, and I was not the bidder at that point. So I'm like, I'm out. I'm definitely out on this one. That was way more. So I thought and they closed it. They hammered it at 260, and I thought I had lost it, because at this point I still didn't know if the person on the phone was a real person, a fake person, what was going on. Well, an hour later, I get a call from the auction house. Hey,
You're not going to believe this.
You're not going to believe this, but the second bidder was trying to renegotiate the deal with him. So the second bidder, I think, thought that there was the fake guy in the crowd bidding it up. Mm-hmm. Then when they tell him, okay, here's your fees, go ahead and start wiring, he's like, no, you guys were playing with me or something, I don't know. But then he started to try to negotiate with the auction house. Then they called me, And then that's when the deal was made.
We made fake IDs that passed 98% of the time, but I was there the 2% of the time where the guy actually opened the account and said, okay, here's all your paperwork in the account. I've made your deposit. Here's your receipt. And that police officer wants to talk to you guys. And me, I went with somebody else and the other person had put on an identity, and we looked and the police are there, and the police is kind of like, when he ran the fingerprints, it ended up taking over an hour and a half, and he had to leave. Like, we waited.
But officer, my prints.
Oh yeah, he goes,
I want to clear this up.
yeah, well, I mean, I never told that story, but the cop says, well, this is taking too long. I'm going to leave. I've been wasted enough time here. If these prints come back and it's not you,
You're in trouble. Come back and it's not me. You're never seeing me again.
It's like, come back. As soon as you leave, I'm not coming back. But I mean, that's a whole different story.